Well, it is 12 o'clock on my Swatch watch. So we will go ahead and get started. For folks who are just joining us, there's a kickoff question there just to get things rolling. Feel free to hop into the chat and give some idea of some things you're considering for your dream job in marketing or otherwise. We're so excited to welcome 5 panelists, 5 alums back for this Careers in Marketing Day, the first one of the first Careers in Day of spring semester. So marketing is very excited to be able to kick off this series for the spring, and our panelists represent a wide variety of a wide range of experiences in marketing. So we are so excited to help our students learn a little bit more about the breadth of career options that are available in marketing. So we encourage you absolutely to continue to drop questions in the chat. Our panelists have some idea of some things that they'd like to share with you all, but when we were planning for this meeting, they all made it very clear that the best outcome of this event will be answering students' questions and helping you all get out of this event what you most want to get out of this event. So please don't be shy about throwing some questions into the chat and taking advantage of the wealth of expertise that we have with us today. So with that, you don't want to hear any more from me because you guys hear from me all the time. So I'd like to turn it over to Shelby Reed, who graciously agreed to be the facilitator for today's session. Thanks, Shelby.
Thanks, Peggy Sue, and all of the students and staff for joining, and to the awesome panelists you'll be hearing from soon. Matt, I realized I didn't know the order of how we were going to introduce ourselves. So I'll maybe wait to do that until it's my turn. Who's up first?
I was going to say, who's on first? First up would actually be Patrick.
There we go.
No pressure there.
Right on the gate.
Hey everybody, I'm going to keep it short. I actually went to Gonzaga back in the 80s and ended up in marketing. I was actually in pre-law for a while and ended up in marketing and loved it, and eventually started a marketing firm, which this year turns 25 years old, which is pretty crazy. We're still all looking at each other, say, how did that happen? And we're called Outsource Marketing, and our name is our claim, go by Outmark. And we've worked with companies like Microsoft, T-Mobile, Safeco, Starbucks, Group Health, 7 different states. Did a lot of work for Paul Allen over the years. So we had some really cool clients, but our core clients are actually mid-market clients. Those are who we actually like working with the most. They have the greatest need for what we do. And let's see, I don't know, what else do you want to know about me? So should I dive right into this? Is that good? Okay, let's do that, because that's enough. So we have a number of different kind of areas to talk about here that, and I don't want to bleed into other areas, and unfortunately I probably end up will just a little bit. There's a lot of different decisions you're going to need to make, and some things you're going to need to consider as you go out into the world of marketing. Marketing is really cool in that, you know, you can be a right brain person or a left brain person. You can, be super creative or super into the math and spreadsheets. And it's just what it means is there's a tremendous array of things you can do in marketing. That's both a blessing and a curse. And I've been talking with marketing students from high school through actually recent law graduates and MBA graduates. And that's always the big question. What the heck am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What am I going to work on? I love this. I love that. And so we're hoping that this part of the conversation that we have here can help give you maybe a few more next steps. I don't know if this is going to answer all your questions, but it may give you some of the next questions to ask and next areas of focus. So when we talk about corporate or creative, there's really a big difference in those types of jobs. And it's something to think about. If you go into a corporate environment, for example, I was in the corporate environment and I wore a tie to work every day, and I paid $240 a month to park in downtown Seattle. And I worked in a company with a bunch of different people who didn't know anything about what I did. And it was a lot of fun. It was interesting, but it really wasn't for me. And that's exactly what some people want. They want standard operating procedures. They want process. They want there to be a way to do everything, and everything has its neat little tidy little compartments that you work within. And my problem was that I had problems with every one of those processes and procedures and every one of those approaches. I wanted to do it my way. And so I was a little better suited more for the creative side. And that's where I ended up. That's why I ended up starting my own business, where I could help define the process, where I was very comfortable in a less structured environment, where things were driven by passion and ideas instead of profit margin. And there's nothing wrong with either. So I tend to be a little more creative than quantitative, even though I love math and I'm pretty good at it. This was the path for me. So when you think about corporate or creative, I think it's important to think about what type of environment do you want to be in? Do you want to have a more loose and less structured, where you can define your path a little bit more, where you can be involved in a creative process and the messiness of that and all that entails? Can you lean into that, and are you comfortable in that? Or do you want somebody to have more defined processes for you? So I don't want to spend too much time because there's a lot of topics to cover, but that's one of the areas that you should put on your little checklist of things to consider. We're going to have several things that you should consider when you're thinking about paths for your career. Do you want an environment that is more defined, or do you want an environment that you have maybe more of a role in defining it?
All right, perfect. We'll
Thanks,
move
Patrick.
on to, you want to move on, Shelby, to our next?
Great.
So here we are.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Really excited to be here today. So my name's Mandy. I'm a principal success guide at Salesforce. Graduated from Gonzaga in 2013. And at the time, I majored in marketing and finance. For me, I was always really passionate about marketing. In high school, I took our marketing courses, did DECA, went to DECA Nationals. And then at Gonzaga, I was an intern in the marketing and communications group. So for me, marketing is something that has always been very exciting for me. For me in my career path, I decided to embark in roles that would allow me to work with customers and build value off of the way that they were utilizing the products that my company sell. So for me, I started out my career at a startup company called PitchBook. And what I liked about it was that it allowed me to really utilize my passions in marketing and finance. And from there, I learned about Salesforce and decided to join the company about 6 years ago. So that's a little bit of background about myself. All right, so startup or established. Again, this is something that you all will probably have to think about when you embark in your career path. For me, I know that this was something that I thought long and hard about. I always thought I wanted to work for an established company coming out of college, because for me, I'm someone who really likes that structure. So I actually did work for a more established company initially graduating from college. I worked for Safeco Insurance, and I really enjoyed the company and what they provide, but at the same time, I felt like I didn't really have the ability to be as creative as I wanted to be. So that's when I decided to join PitchBook, and I worked in sales there. And what I really liked about it was that it allowed me to really grow a little bit more professionally and learn about what my passions were. I also really enjoyed being able to have conversations with C-level executives within PitchBook. And then I also liked that I was able to help with building out some of the business processes as well. On the same token, though, I've really enjoyed working at Salesforce because I like that the tasks are a little bit more narrow. So it's really allowed me to focus in on my passions of working with the customer rather than wearing multiple hats at the same time. I've also liked that I've had a ton of different mentors who are really knowledgeable. So I had a similar experience at PitchBook, but I felt like I kind of had to work a little bit harder to find those mentors, whereas at Salesforce, I was assigned mentors, which I have really enjoyed. And there's also a ton of resources out there to help me with learning about what I want to do and what I'm passionate about. So different manuals, different guides, different courses that I can take as well. So I think both experiences for me have been great. And also I think another thing about working for an established company or a misconception is that yes, you have a lot of structure, but at the same time, there's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of different departments that are growing. So as an example for me, after about 4 years with the company, I was asked to join a new department in customer success. And there was only 12 of us at the time. Now there's hundreds of us. And that was just 2 years ago. And what's cool about it was I kind of felt like I was a startup operating in an established company. I was able to, again, help with building out those process. I was wearing multiple hats, working with customers, but also building out these different decks and presentations to share with internal VPs and directors to show them the work that my team does. So both experiences for me have been great. It kind of just depends on what you want to do. I feel like at a startup, you really get to figure out what your passions are because you're wearing so many hats and because you get to talk to so many folks in leadership. But at an established company, you get a little bit more structure. So those are just some things to think about when you are exploring in terms of your career path.
Hello, my name is Eilis Smith. I went to Gonzaga. I actually graduated in 2020, so only 2 years ago. My initial startup with marketing in real life was I got an internship my senior year at Gonzaga. And I was lucky enough to turn that internship into a part-time job halfway through fall semester. And then when COVID hit, I got the opportunity to work with them full-time. So I stayed with an agency for a while. And then in November of 2020, I was offered a role in a hospitality company as a marketing consultant. I worked my way up there to be the manager of their restaurant sector for marketing. Then I became the manager of their restaurant and hotel sector. And then again in this year, or last year in 2021 in November, I was offered the opportunity to go back to an agency, which I found I kind of liked more. It gave me more diversity and more room to breathe. So I took the opportunity, and that's kind of what I'm talking about on the next slide. Client side versus agency life, it's very different. When I was at Gonzaga, I really did think that I was going to want to work in corporate in-house marketing. That was my goal. I always said I never wanted to work in agencies. I was scared of burning the candle at both ends. I heard that it can be very stressful, very high intensity hours. And that kind of scared me a little bit. Luckily, that internship really changed my mind on that. I was able to see that you're lucky to work with a whole bunch of different clients in different sectors. You're able to learn marketing trends across different areas in the business world, which is really cool to see. And then again, in my client side, everything was very structured. We had set hours, we had set goals, we had set requirements for what we were doing each quarter. Everything was very corporate feeling, very organized. And that's not to say it's universal, but everything was pretty structured. I think that you are always aware when you're in-house marketing where you fall in the corporate structure. And you can sometimes feel siloed, which was kind of interesting. I worked within my division and we received financial like reports and everything, but we needed to really see how the company was operating outside of our marketing little bubble. And of course, we worked with outside agencies and all of that, but it was very much, what are we doing today, tomorrow, next week? Whereas now, again, I'm back in the agency life and I get to see so many different things happening. Or I'm working for a company that is working with mid-tier, small, and some even large companies. And it's kind of fun to see how the different sectors kind of work together in strange ways. Everything's kind of connected in the business world in a way that you don't get to see it necessarily in-house. So with that being said, I think it's really important as you're going forward as new graduates, or as you're thinking about it as juniors even, to really think about how you want to structure your time and how you want to structure basically work-life balance. And if you need or crave that creativity in your life, those are all really important things to say or to think about, kind of like what Pat and Mandy were touching on, corporate versus creative and where you fall on that line. There is some room in between there that you can kind of play around with, but agency and client-side marketing kind of divide those in my experience.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shelby Reed, and I graduated Gonzaga in 2004. I lived at 312 Cinto my senior year, so I had no excuse if I was late to a class in Jepson, because it was a nice short walk. My career has been built primarily in sales, in advertising sales, digital media, and technology generally. And so I took my marketing education, and my first job out of school was at a small digital startup at the time. This was before Facebook. This is right when Google started selling ads. And so digital advertising was really in the early days. And so although I wasn't at an agency or client side, I was actually on the media publisher side. And so it was a nice balance of that corporate and business-driven environment. And I had a huge variety of marketers that I worked with. So I was able to learn about a lot of industries. And in terms of the function of B2b sales, it's an opportunity to take the marketing messaging and the product developed by the company you represent and really shape it in a personal selling environment, one-on-one, one-to-few, with your customers. And so after that startup, I ended up growing my career. I spent a lot of time at Microsoft in their media and advertising business, led a commercial sales organization at Expedia, and now find myself at Amazon on a team called Executive Visioning, which is super cool sounding, and it's actually even cooler than it sounds. So I'm taking all of those years of sales, marketing strategy, commercial strategy experience, and I get to work with executives of customers from some of the most interesting companies on the planet and organize workshops with executives across Amazon. We use a design thinking framework, which starts from the customer, consumer behavior, what are the customer needs, and envision what's the future together and what can our companies invent together. And so actually I find myself in my current job, a great mix of right brain, left brain. So left brain is defined as linear, fact-driven thinking. Right is more imaginative, visual, and arts-based. And we all have both sides of our brain. And in fact, every job in marketing or otherwise calls upon both parts of your brain. It's just good to know yourself and what type of work you're drawn to, which side of that brain most energizes you, and then think about the different roles and working environments that will most unlock that. And so, I've found, especially my career has been pretty focused in the tech sector and digital marketing. It's truly a blend of both. There's data in every decision, even the most creatively driven decision. And at some point, you have to make a leap of faith and trust your intuition and take the data you have and go ahead. And so marketing is a really wonderful function that lets you draw from both sides of the brain. And it's just knowing yourself when you think about the job that's the best fit. Matt, to you.
All right, thank you. My name is Matt Teske. I'm the founder and CEO of Chargeway currently. A little bit of an entrepreneur. I've had a few different ventures throughout my career. I graduated from Gonzaga in 2003. I lived at 1030 Boone my senior year. So I like that note, Shelby, where we may have lived. Yeah, starting out long ago, I think I realized that from a career path, I wanted to do a variety of different things that were creative focused. And so that led me to studying marketing at Gonzaga. I also have a minor in public relations. And really my goal was always to just take things that I was imagining in my mind and help bring them into reality. And so a lot of the things I did starting out as a kid, I wanted to basically paint the canvas of whatever I could. And that started out oftentimes when I was younger in the automotive sector. And so that led to actually working with companies when I was still in high school and even at Gonzaga on developing out different programs for the automotive sector. And that really I was able to blend those experiences that I had both when I was very young and going through school with the classes I had at Gonzaga. And it really was this nice balance of real world experience and kind of getting my hands dirty in that way, but also getting the right tools and the toolkit that would allow me to understand how to piece a lot of that together professionally through my classes at Gonzaga. And coming out of school, though, I think I still had this little part of me that felt that I would go into the corporate world. And so first, I interned at a publisher during my time at Gonzaga. Then ended up having an opportunity with them straight out of school. And I realized quickly that it was not the fit that I wanted for where I'd grown to because of those experiences, both through being at Gonzaga and getting my chance to, again, work in the real world during that same time period. So I ended up venturing off on my own about a year after school to start just a small boutique creative and marketing branding agency to see where I could take it, focusing a lot on automotive clients. And over a period of 10 or 12 years, had the chance to work with brands like Toyota and General Motors, Scion, the youth brand from Toyota that was out for a long time, as well as non-automotive brands such as CVS, Nike, and others. And really getting a chance to work on just vision for them, those brands and companies, on new product launches, how to communicate your value proposition to your customer for your product, and really helping craft storytelling. And if anybody asks me what I do anymore, I really talk about that, is that I work on storytelling. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I always had this other piece in my mind that I wanted to focus on was making a difference in the world. It wasn't just about storytelling for products in general that I might have had passion about. It was also about where are we taking humanity, where are we taking our lives. And so I decided to fold up my small agency that I'd put together and focus on the environment and clean energy. And I had a lot of experience in the realm of transportation. I loved cars, but I kept asking myself, how can I be so passionate about something that I know is having an impact on the world that we live in? And how can I do something to change that for the better? And so I focused on my talents and looked at that industry, and it led me to develop out a solution to explain electricity as a fuel type. Most of us that have driven cars for decades, we drive on gasoline, but electric cars are a new conversation. They've been around for a long time. They were actually around 100 years ago. It's just that gasoline as a fuel was just easier for people to understand and use. And in technology, things have caught up, but now we're at a place where we need to help people understand how to transition to a new fuel type. And so I founded Chargeway. It's a way to visualize how to use charging in a way that's easy to understand for any car, for any driver, anywhere in North America. And we're working to take this as a software platform and provide it to a variety of different stakeholders that are in that market, which include the energy sector and the auto sector. So I've been working very hard on developing out that as a startup. So I've gotten used to taking ideas from a cocktail napkin and building them up into fully functioning stories, whether that's been for clients or even for my own interests over the years. And so today with Chargeway, we're working on developing out, again, partnerships with anybody we can that's in that space of not only transportation, but how are we moving the world forward in a way that future generations will say that we were innovative. And it's fun to be a part of that innovation. But I think that's one of the best parts about marketing in general, is that it takes what are a lot of different existing core focuses and principles and and industries and helps translate it to the rest of humanity. It's not just about the engineering or what is being developed or built or created in the background. It's how do you meet people where they are with those offerings, and that's where I think the marketing careers really paint the picture for that. And there's always an opportunity to tell those stories, no matter what industry you're in, what product or service you're providing. So that's something I'm open to talk about today. And part of that then leads to the idea of, what is success and what is failure? Just kind of kicking that off. So I've had plenty of these moments where things went great over my career, where I felt that, wow, all that hard work finally paid off. And then I've also had plenty of these moments throughout my career where I'm like, oh boy, that did not work out. And so that happens on a regular basis. And one thing to set yourself up for in advance is you might have a picture in your mind of where your career is going to go today. And there's going to be a lot of twists and turns and squiggles along the way that will be barriers to overcome and challenges, but you will also have moments of elation where you actually do accomplish something great. But we want to talk about those moments even today for those of us on the panel that have those types of moments. But for myself, being through both corporate and creative roles, small and large, working with big companies and starting something from scratch, these things happen, and it's okay. It's just part of the process. But happy to talk about some of those moments with you today as well. So with that, Shelby, I can move us on to the next slide, which is really kind of our overview of all the things we touched on.
Amazing, thank you. I think we can all see the diversity of experiences and background that this panel brings. And Hannah, thank you so much for jumping into the chat. We are going to run through a couple of questions that we got inspired from Peggy Sue by what all of you are learning right now. And we will change course at any moment based on what you are most curious about hearing. And so, Matt, a question to you. On the topic of success and failure, which do you find to be the stronger, more sustainable motivator?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the more sustainable one is the success, because it really is that moment when you realize all the hard work paid off. I think the failure moments, they're more short-lived if you know that you actually still have the fire inside to keep going, but you always have to treat it as a learning moment. And I mean, I will even be candid. In the last week, I have had some moments where there have been some gut punches to what I'm working on right now, because the world that I live in and work in for my career and my company, it's changing quickly. And there's a lot of conversation about it, and there's a lot of things happening. And I have to take these moments where I might find myself, feeling like that didn't go as planned, and it's even a bit discouraging. But you can't let it last that long, because frankly, if you're passionate about what you're working on, you actually believe in what you're doing, the successes will shine through. But it doesn't mean you're not going to have days where it's tough. But I find myself really relishing in the fact that the hard work that goes along that process, that's the success to me, I think. It's not just the moment of when you have the validation of it, it's the process. Because it really feels, you can tell when you're making that progress happen. I mean, that's my 2 cents in my experience.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. All right, thank you so much, Hannah. Keep the questions coming. Mandy, for now, I'm going to come to you. So a common question after graduation, or some of you juniors and seniors might already be hearing, how are you going to use your degree, or are you using your degree? So Mandy, how has your GU marketing degree connected to your career so far? Are there any classes or experiences that stand out?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like, honestly, I use my marketing degree every single day when I'm talking to customers, or even when I'm working internally with teammates. So I do feel like with a marketing degree, I'm able to verbally and in writing just connect with folks a lot better. For every single interaction I have with the customers I speak with, I always try to add value after every single slide deck, every single click path. And that in turn helps it so that they are more excited about our product and can see how much value our product can bring to them on a day-to-day basis. So with that, I would say at GU, some experiences that have really stood out to me are definitely consumer behavior, because to me, it's really important for me to understand my customers and why they're behaving the way they are, why they are wanting to use our products the way that they are. And then Shelby, I think you alluded to this, how data is just such a huge part of the day-to-day. That's really similar with my experience, where my team and a large majority of folks at Salesforce are using our marketing analytics as a way to predict and determine why our customers are acting the way that they are. And then another thing is, on a day-to-day basis, I am presenting every single day to customers and to internal teammates. So I would say my presentation skills have definitely been really helpful because of all the different presentations and group projects that I did at Gonzaga. So I remember doing quite a few in international marketing as an example. I would say even outside of marketing and just looking at the business admin degree, generally speaking. I remember as our capstone project, my senior year in strategic management, I did a group project. It was a really fun one. It was on Disney, so it's hard to forget that one. And then I also was asked to participate in the small business consulting class. And I think I saw in the chat, someone said that that was their dream job. So I actually think that class was super helpful for me. And I used my marketing skills even in that class to really learn about my customer that I was working with at the time, their pain points, and get a better understanding of how I can help them. So I would say in my day-to-day interactions, I'm always thinking and using my marketing skills.
Thank you. Patrick, I see you writing some notes down there. Is there anything you'd like to build on with what Mandy just shared on how you reflect on putting your degree to work? And you're muted.
Actually, she's much closer to it than I am, since it's been so long. I mean, I taught at the University of Washington for 5 years, and that was over 20 years ago. So I think one of the things that I credit Gonzaga with was, I love the part when you start talking about the writing and, you know, that sort of thing. But I think that Gonzaga taught me to quit being passive about my life and my learning. When I remember a history class and then a business class in the same day, where I had a very similar statement made by, one was a priest and the other one was a professor. I guess they're both professors, but whatever. So, and it was basically, I remember the history professor saying, we don't study history, we do history. And explained, we look at the primary texts, we dig deeper, we try and understand things, and we need to be deliberate about it. We don't passively just take what someone else has fed us and let it be, you know, our narrative. We look at the primary texts and we make our own decisions. We learn from that. And then being in a business class where it was a very similar thing, except it had to do with business. And I think that there was like a little tiny switch that went on in me when I heard that day, hearing it from two different places, very different places. And I realized that the Gonzaga education is very deliberate, and that a Jesuit education is very deliberate, and that it kind of just worked for me. And from that point forward, I don't think I was very passive in anything that I did. I was very deliberate. And so I wasn't taking notes about that. I was taking notes about something that Matt had said earlier, you know, and I wanted to make sure that when we're done, that I make myself available for anybody that has a question about something. So it was unrelated.
Well, thank you for sharing that amazing perspective. I think that added a lot. Thank you. Yeah,
just be active in your, don't just be passive and let someone else tell you what your narrative is. It's we're all smarter than that. To get into Gonzaga, to participate at Gonzaga, there's so much more to it than that. And it seems to be a separator, because a lot of my friends who were at other schools never seemed to stick with them the same way. In our conversations, we seemed to be in completely different areas, personally.
Thank you. Matt, I'm gonna circle around back to you on more of this thinking of success and failure. Making career moves can be nerve-wracking, especially deciding that first job and accepting that first job after graduation. Can you talk more about how you have known when it was the right time to make a change, or when a job was right, especially early in your career?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one of those things you have to pay attention to what your inner, kind of like your inner monologue is giving you every day. And I relate it to, even dating and relationships, is you sometimes have that feeling where this is right, and you also have that feeling where this isn't the right fit. And you invest your life every day into what you do professionally. I mean, it's a big part of every waking moment of your life. And so for me, it's always been, if I ever got a sense that something wasn't the right fit, I always would ask myself, why? Is it circumstantial? Is it me? Is it someone else? I mean, what, especially professionally, what's the reasoning here? And I think oftentimes it would come back to even things like cultural fit. Was this where I wanted to be as a person? And then it turned into, what was I wanting to do with myself professionally? And frankly, that relates to both the corporate environment as well as on the client side. So whether you're talking corporate or creative, or whether you're talking agency side or client side, in my career, I've had to make decisions against, was this corporate environment that I was personally in and the company that I was part of a good fit, and making a decision about that. And it really just comes down to being honest to yourself. There's a fear factor there of jumping, of what, where will I land? And is the grass greener on the other side? And am I making the right decision? And the answer is, the grass is never greener. The grass is just there, and you can water it and make it grow. And that's really kind of how to think of it. So
Right.
on a corporate level, for me, it was just the cultural fit for me is I needed to be spreading my wings differently. I wasn't meant to be inside of a structure. I felt that I would be more satisfied if I was doing things on my own. And then when I finally did that, it then turned into working with clients and having to come to a place where, even though a client might be, someone we've been working with for a while, they might have even been, paying us a good retainer for services, things of that nature for projects. It then turned into, is the client the right fit? Because sometimes you can have, a toxic experience, both in a corporate environment or even running your own business with a client you're working with. And in those instances, it can be tough, but you need to ask yourself from a mental health perspective, and from just a general perspective, who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. We're all talking about the realm of business and professionalism, but at the end of the day, you need to be healthy for yourself in those decisions too. And if you're true to yourself in that, you can find passionate projects, in my view, whether that's or passionate work, that could be at a corporate environment or on your own. So yeah, I think just being honest with yourself with the voice in your head, it's usually not lying to you.
That's great. That intuition, for sure. Thanks, Matt. There was a question a moment ago from Rachel. Do you think that it's necessary that you get your MBA? Rachel, I'll step up to that one and then welcome any other of the panelists. I did earn my MBA in the evenings at Seattle University, a couple years out of Gonzaga. And my personal experience is that I enjoyed it, and I have gotten a ton of benefit from it. Did it immediately get me a new job or a big pay raise? No. But I found a ton of value in the experience of taking a few years of work experience and living firsthand the dynamics of how organizations make decisions and need to change and balance the needs of customers, and all of that lived experience of being in the workforce for a couple of years, and then applying new ways of thinking and tools to that experience. And so personally, I found it hugely valuable. It's impossible to know if it changed the course of my career, but I do know it has given me skills that I use frequently. Anyone else want to add a different perspective, or should we keep on with questions?
A lot of perspective. Shelby, I'm a little bit different than you in that I haven't pursued my MBA quite yet. I think it's maybe something that's in the future I'd be interested in. But for me, I feel like I'm learning so much by doing. And another thing, at least for being customer facing and consultative in the tech industry, at least, consuming the certifications that my company provides, I think has been super helpful for me. And in addition to that, we do have a ton of different leadership and management courses that we that are offered to us here. So as an example, at Salesforce, if you want to become a manager or join leadership, you do have to take a 1-year leadership program. So I think taking advantage of courses like that and also working for a company that will help you with paying for your MBA is also something that's super helpful and something to think about if and when you do pursue that route.
Awesome. Thank you. And we have some really great questions coming in. Ben asks, at Gonzaga, I'm currently a computer science major, but I've realized marketing is the better career path. Which major would you suggest to go with the concentration of marketing? Does anyone have a perspective there?
That's interesting, actually, because a lot of the people that I work with right now are computer scientists and data people in the realm of electric vehicles. But honestly, marrying those two talents, I honestly think will be very, very helpful in the future, especially where the industries are, just where the world's headed. I think one of the biggest challenges right now that the humanity is facing from a business perspective, in my opinion, is that technology is moving fast. And humans don't always often keep up with it. Generationally speaking, that's happening as young people are introduced to things like iPads when they're 2. You see how they're more easily engaged with certain products. But if you have an understanding of computer science, but you also know how to marry that to how to translate the benefits of that technology and how to position it in a way that people can understand the value of that, I think that's a special combination. Now, if you feel that marketing is really more for you from a right brain perspective, but you have that left brain element of understanding how things function, I think that either pathway forward, if you feel you have a sense for both, could be strong. It's just then it boils down to, what do you think you want to lead on? Do you want to lead on the storytelling and be able to work with engineers and people in technology that understand how to develop those products and that software, things of that nature? Or do you want to be someone who's in the room developing out the technology that knows how to have a conversation with people that need to help craft the messaging that gets it out to the world? You can take a leadership role in both. I think it's a matter of just asking where you want to lead on and then leveraging those other talents.
Thanks for that. And
Can I
there's
say something?
Great. Yes.
Just quickly, I'm a small firm. We have less than 20 employees, but we have 400 freelancers, agencies, subcontractors that we work with nationwide. And one of the most challenging things we have is finding, and a lot of our clients are in technology. One of the most challenging things that we have, and I will pay a pretty penny for, is somebody who understands technology and understands marketing, because they are a rare bird indeed. And when I find them, I lock them up. I lock them up with money. I slap on the golden handcuffs. I do everything in my power to keep them happy, because they're hard to find. You get one or the other. You get somebody who's good at technology but couldn't communicate their way out of a paper bag, or they're really good at the marketing side, but technically they just can't find themselves. And you cannot put a non-technical person with a technical person and build trust. It's almost impossible. Actually, completely different personality profiles, and there's actually this inherent distrust between technical people and creative people, especially technical people and salespeople. Zero trust there. So it's hard to find that connection. So if you're doing this and you do it well, don't sell yourself short on communication, both written and verbal. Invest in that. The marketing as well, but invest in that verbal and written communication is critical. But combining those two, very powerful right now. And everybody I know that owns an agency will pay a lot for people who can do that and do it well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I am seeing the same. Jessica asked a question. Do I need to have a marketing degree to go into a career in marketing? And Eilis, maybe I'll come to you on this. You've worked in a couple different places on both sides of the table. Does everyone you work with come with a marketing degree?
No, not at all, actually. A lot of different degrees and fields. People, even without degrees, sometimes end up working alongside us. I have a lot of finance majors who have been part of my team. I've had a lot of MIS students, which is super helpful. Kind of ties into the last question. They help us build the back end of a lot of our platforms and help us structure everything out and work really well with our team. And again, that's a really hard talent to find. But no, as far as requiring a degree in marketing, it's actually kind of rare to find someone with a degree in marketing in the field of marketing, PR, finance, communications. Those are all really super popular degrees that I've seen and worked alongside with. But yeah, I think I'm one of the only people in my current office one of three maybe, in leadership roles who has a degree in marketing.
Love that perspective. So right there, opportunity for students of all degrees to add value to this field. Let's go to a topic that I know is on everyone's mind, networking. We all hear when it comes to driving our career and getting jobs, it's all about networking. So let's do a bit of a lightning round with our panelists and hear from everyone on some quick tips, tactical things that the students can take away about what has worked well for you as the networker, or perhaps what has worked well for you when someone has been networking with you and you've been the receiver of networking. So Eilis, maybe we'll keep with you and just, can you share some quick tips on networking?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I've learned about networking is to just do it. It's super scary when you're reaching out to alumni or people in your field that you're looking up to or want to kind of learn from, but I've never had an experience with someone who was angry or upset at me interrupting their time or anything. They were always super helpful. They explained the field. And I've developed some really strong relationships with people that I still talk to today from my senior year. I meet them down in Portland sometimes to have coffee, and it's a lot of fun to learn about what they're doing in their fields and what they're seeing. And yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned from networking is to literally just take that chance and reach out and see how it goes. Because the worst thing that can happen is they say they're too busy or you get ignored. So it's not that bad, overall.
Love that. Matt, what about you?
No, I agree with a lot of what Eilis just said. I mean, if you do get ignored, for example, you reach out to talk to somebody and they don't get back to you, it's not personal most times. It's usually just that they're busy and they're just going through their professional life. For me, I started networking when I was really young. I had no problem walking up to just anybody because I wanted to talk to them, but that was just part of my personality type. So I think that lent to my being able to grow and establish relationships, but I think that word is important. It is relationship building. If it is purely professional, I mean, have transparency around that for what you're looking to gain out of that. But if you're also looking for mentorship or just even to have a conversation, just be authentic and upfront about that. Both if you're on the giving end of that, if you're looking to establish more contacts, be clear about what your hope is to gain out of that. And I'm always receptive to that because I like the fact that there's clarity around why someone is contacting me. If I get a cold hit on LinkedIn from someone I've never met ever, and they just want to connect with me, I won't accept it because my response to that is, look, this is, this isn't Facebook, this isn't Twitter. This is my professional existence and I want to know what we're communicating about. So I think that that's just part of it, is being authentic. And it doesn't mean you have to be giving up a ton of time either if you're on the receiving end of the interest. You can be authentic and clear back of happy to talk to you, what are your interests? And again, as I was pointed out, it could be just establishing relationships to go grab that cup of coffee, but it might start out as a 5-minute call, a 5-minute Zoom. So I think authenticity matters for the relationship building part of it, and that's important.
Awesome. Patrick, Mandy, jump in.
Mandy, do you want to go before me?
Sure, yeah, I'll jump in. I am like smiling just listening to everyone talk just because I agree so much. And networking to me is so important. That's how I've landed all of my different roles and career transitions here at Salesforce, is just by grabbing coffee with people when we were in the office, and now just putting coffee chats on people's calendars just to genuinely get to know them. So I would say, as a college student or a potential student that's about to graduate, I would say get involved and really get to know others. So some ways I did that while I was in college was going to the Career Center, looking at what internships were available, going to office hours to talk to my professors, to learn a little bit more about the different courses that they were teaching, and then getting to know just other students as well, getting involved in the Gonzaga community. And I feel like that really pays off, because personally for me, as somebody from Portland and who lives in Seattle, there's a ton of Zags here. So even after your time at Gonzaga, you will be able to network from a professional standpoint, and get to know others and their careers as well.
What would you add, Patrick?
Okay, I don't want to run out of time, so kick me if I go too long here, Shelby.
Yeah, how about, give me 20, 30 seconds of your best tips. Go.
Oh, I've got more than that's the problem. So what I would urge you to do is step back for a minute before you go out and network with everybody under the sun, and consider yourself a product. Consider your customer and what they're looking for, the category, your competition, your company, your culture, your channels. Think about yourself like you're a product. Make that your first marketing product that you actually work on. Develop your own personal positioning, who you are, who you're for, how you're different, why it matters. Marketing 101 stuff. You guys all know this, right? Do that for yourself, and then determine, where do I want to go? Where are people talking about this kind of stuff, right? It's just like marketing a product or service. Where are people talking about it? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it on certain types of meetups? What types of groups? Be strategic first. What I'll tell you is that time will never be wasted. It's incredibly useful. Take the time to be deliberate. Kind of like, we're not going to just do networking. It isn't just networking. It isn't just history. We're going to study history. We're going to do history, right? But we're not just going to study, marketing or networking. We're going to do networking, right? So the idea is be super, super deliberate, break it down, and then you'll have your audiences. And then it's about math. So there are going to be a lot of people that you're going to talk to that are going to turn you away and they're going to ignore you. That's okay. It's just math. Every no is a step closer to a yes. Anybody in sales that will tell you that, and you build a real thick skin in sales, but most of us don't have that thick skin. Learn that it's just math. If you aren't getting enough meetings, triple the number of meetings you're trying to get. A guy that I knew once moved here from Philadelphia. He had 75 appointments set over the course of 2 weeks. He's checked into a hotel and he had 75 networking appointments set. And he had 7 job offers within 2 weeks. And all he was doing was doing informational interviews. It's math, okay? So first be deliberate, then know that it's just math. Don't take it personal. People are busy.
Thank you, everyone. I was definitely taking notes. Our time is going quickly. And so before we close, Eilis, I'm going to come to you for one of our last questions. We know that brand activism and inclusion, diversity, and equity are increasingly present in marketing and marketing strategies. When we spoke about panel prep, you shared some interesting work you're doing there. Can you tell us more about that now?
One of the clients that I work with is currently working with BIPOC farmers and helping them sell their food and everything and their wares to US Foods and other distributors like that. The biggest barrier between that is a lot of first generation and BIPOC farmers do not have the funds for liability insurance or the trust behind that. So they're kind of stepping into that role and working out those kinks for them. The biggest thing that I've noticed or had experiencing with this is just our messaging has to be super, super careful with this. Virtue signaling, all of that. Brand activism is not new anymore, but it's kind of oversaturating the market right now. And a lot of younger consumers are noticing that. And sometimes it doesn't come off as true. So that kind of ties into Gonzaga, in my opinion, just because the ethics courses, the consumer behavior, learning about the AMA, all of that. That stuff that you learn in those classes will stay with you throughout your career. It's always something in the back of my mind when I'm marketing towards certain groups. Am I being careful with my messaging? Am I taking advantage of people? All of that. Those are things that you learn through Gonzaga that will never go away. It's kind of just like a little voice in the back of your head, kind of like Peggy Sue in the back of your head, telling you just like to check in with yourself and make sure that you're being ethical in your choices. I think that's a huge sector in marketing that's going to become more prevalent, and people really need to take advantage of that while they're still in school. Kind of read up all you can, because it's going to matter more and more in the future. People aren't consumers are educated, and it's becoming more and more so with social media and all of that. Ideas spread very quickly. So just take advantage of that while you're still in college. Really learn up on that and check in with yourself when you're in the field. I think that's basically what we were talking about in the pre-panel.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Inspiring to hear that work you're doing, and for a lot of reasons. And, thinking about these graduates who may have an opportunity to do meaningful work as well. Well, Patrick, you inspired us with some of your comments on the broader Jesuit education and the influence on your career. And I'd like in just 20 seconds to ask that of the rest of the panelists as we wrap up. So maybe to Matt and Mandy, because we just heard Eilis a bit about you, but can you talk about the impact of the Jesuit business education on your career in marketing, and what you'd like to leave with the group today?
Me first, or Mandy?
Matt, we'll come to you, then Mandy.
I think the biggest thing that I took away from that education, Jesuit education, was really understanding to think about what I was doing with my role in my work and how it impacted other people. And when I was at Gonzaga, the theme was educating people the world needs most. And I really think that the critical thinking aspect of what that means through every single thing I do in my work, whether it's related to my concentration, what I did for studies, or how I conduct myself as a person, really is where I got the most out of what I gained from that Jesuit education.
Mandy?
I think for me, the Jesuit education taught me about how to develop myself holistically, but also how to ensure that my customers are getting the holistic needs that they need as well. So I think for me, working at a company like Salesforce has allowed me to not only grow professionally, but it's a company that also allows me to give back to the community. So they do provide us with 56 hours of volunteer time. So I've happily utilized that to give back through food drives, charities, building out Salesforce orgs for nonprofits. And then when working with customers, always been thinking empathetically so I can really make a difference to them and their companies.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for the great questions today. And I speak on behalf of all of these impressive panelists that we are here for you for follow-up, and chat about if our former houses are still standing, and all of that. So please reach out. Thank you so much. Peggy C, will hand it back for you, but thank you for inviting all of us to this conversation.
Oh, you're so welcome. We obviously are super grateful to the panelists for making the time to be here. And I know that I have shared the LinkedIn profiles of each of these panelists with my class. And so hopefully you also have access to those through other professors or through the website that was the sort of launching off point for this event as well. If anyone would like to get in touch with any of these panelists and doesn't happen to have access to that information, just please feel free to reach out to one of the marketing professors, and we can pass that along for sure. But aside from that, I'm so grateful to our alumni who are always so willing to come and give back to us in this way and share their insight and wisdom. And thanks to all of you for making the time. So quick round of applause for everyone, and enjoy the rest of your careers in marketing day. Last day of February, everybody. See you later.